What is up, DMV Hoops fans? Welcome to another Bleav in DMV Hoops. I got a great one for you here today. I've got UDC head coach Mike Riley joining me. Mike, thanks so much for coming on.
No problem, Matt.
For anybody not familiar, the University of the District of Columbia, D2 program. Coach Riley, you've been in the area for forever here. Want to get into that? I think that's awesome. This is exactly what we want to spotlight. But first, just a couple ad reads to get out of the way. Brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard half and halves, hard peach teas, everything delicious. And also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, UFC, tennis, everything. BetOnline continues to be the fast and easy way to place your wagers, including live betting in your favorite casino and card games. Head to the website or use your mobile device to join today and use our promo code Bleav, BLEAV, for 50% off your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Coach. So I mentioned this a little bit here. You're from DC. You went to Cardozo High School. You were an assistant at Georgetown for 20 plus years. You've been the coach at UDC since 2013. You were as DMV as it gets. Has that been just like an important thing for you? I know you've had opportunities to coach probably other places along the way. Is that something you just wanted to do and stay local?
Well, I never thought about it much. Actually, when I was I was in the Navy, and you're talking about staying with DC. I was in the Navy. I was getting out, and I had thought about going down with my college coach to Virginia State.
Okay.
That's where he was. But at the time, I had a son, and I wanted to be in his life. And I was trying to figure out if I could take him with me or what could happen. And then there was a phone call, and the phone call came from Coach Thompson. And so, prayer works. And so I got an opportunity to go to Georgetown, which was perfect from the standpoint I could still be around my son. So I never thought about leaving or staying one way or another. It has been neat, though, that I've been able to get a job because I was told one time by a coach that's from this area, he coached at Rice, and he told me one time, he says, you're the luckiest guy I know. And I said, why is that? He said, because you were coaching at a major university in the place where you were born and raised at. And I hadn't thought about that. And I started thinking about the different people that were in the business that were at different schools. A lot of the people were from different places other than where they were from the school. So from that regard, we're pretty lucky. I think Coach Thompson, Craig Esherick, myself, we're all from the same Washington, D.C. area. So,
did you have a long-standing relationship with Coach Thompson that led him to make that call to bring you on the staff?
Coach Thompson saw me play in high school. Okay. He came to one game. We played the Mather, and I had a pretty good game.
Gotcha.
Defensively, I had a pretty good game, and he remembered that. And so when I was in the service, I guess he was talking to the assistant coaches, and they were looking for a name, and my name came up, and he called my high school coach to find out what happened to me. He told him what it was. So he contacted my mom. My mom gave him the address that he could connect me with because I was on the ship.
Oh, wow.
And that's how it started. I actually came across the quarterdeck, and the guy said, Mike, you got a message here. And he looked for it, and he said, we're actually overseas. And he said, a guy named Coach Thompson? I said, nah, I don't know him. So, but when I called the office, when Coach Thompson got on the phone, he said, do you know who I am? And after I had thought about it, I said, Coach, the only Coach Thompson I know is a Coach Thompson that coached at St. Anthony's High School, and he went to either George Washington or Georgetown. And he said Georgetown. Yeah. And that's how it got started. So it's kind of neat.
Wow. Yeah, you got in early on the Georgetown run there, which is pretty sweet, and helped build that thing up. The success you guys had is incredible. Just reading this off for anybody who, if you're from the area, you probably already know this, but it's 6 Big East Conference championships, 4 Big East tournament championships, 2 Final Fours, and the 1984 national championship. I think that was in your second year too. So it's a pretty good run right out of the gate there to win a national championship.
Well, we went to 2 Final Fours, and Craig and I first. Craig was a grad assistant before me, but in our first full time, we went to 2 Final Fours in our first 3 years. And I was thinking, half-heartedly, people always say it's tough to get to the Final Four. How tough can it be? We got, but never to go again. So, you do know it's tough to get there. And obviously I was, that was a joke. I was not. I know it's tough and hard to get there. It's hard to and tough to win Big East championships. It's hard to win games in the Big East at home and on the road. So anytime you can get them, we used to have a couple of teams that were not so great, but the atmosphere at those places made it. I mean, Providence being one of them. Providence built themselves up into a good team, but early on they weren't but the atmosphere at those places was tremendous. And so it was tough to play there also.
I think anybody younger may not realize just like how good the Big East actually was. Like it was
the
basketball conference, those Monday night games like that. That's as good as you can do.
Boston College, Seton Hall, Connecticut. I mean, everybody had a good team, and it was just tough to win. And when those teams were down, they were trying to build up because they were trying to, compete with it. And a lot of kids wanted to play against the best. So they wound up coming into the Big East to play. And the Big East was a monster. I guess it's like the SEC in football now. It's just a monster. So we used to get kids, get an opportunity to recruit kids that were out of the area because of the fact that it was the Big East.
Yeah, first big TV deal with ESPN and things like that too. Like guys want to come and have the whole world get to see them play potentially. I think that was probably a huge recruiting pitch for anybody. It was like, hey, if you want to see yourself in the brightest lights, come play here.
Come play in the Big East. Yeah. There was some good years there. Some very good years.
You mentioned having a particularly good defensive game when Coach Thompson saw you. I know you were a former defensive player of the year in your day. Has that been a calling card for you for Al, just focusing on the defensive end? Or
I do. I was just talking to the guys today. We were talking, and I think I see the world in a defensive form. Sure. I play ping pong. I play defensively. Before I jump in the water, I have to see. I think some of those things I just do from a standpoint. But defense, I knew that defense was going to, if I was going to go anywhere with basketball, it was going to be on the defensive side. And I think that people have roles on teams, and everybody can't be the shooter, the rebounder, so you got to find where you fit because there are a lot of roles to be had, and the one thing, shooters shoot, scorers score, but you can always shoot too much. You can always pass too much. You can always dribble too much, but you can't ever rebound too much. So, if you're good rebounder, you can play, and you can't ever play too much defense. Nobody, I didn't know how. I was a good one-on-one defensive player, but I did not know how to play team defense until I got to Georgetown. Coach Thompson actually taught me how to play team defense. I'm thinking I get my man, you get your man, and we'll go. He taught me the fact that if I have skills, I'm able to guard my man and still help with the people that may not be as quick as me. And it was, and that's what I'm trying to convey now.
Right. Yeah.
Which I know he probably had a tough time with my freshman year because some of it I just didn't see. I remember walking back up on the hill and thinking, he don't know what he's talking about, and all young people that's playing basketball, a lot of them, you figure you think the way to do things, and a lot of times you don't. And if you just be a little patient, that's what these kids that we have here, and I'm sure in a lot of other places, they're not patient. Everybody wants it in a hurry. If we run plays, I'm saying get motion, swing the ball from one side to the other, and we're in practice, and they'll go 5 possessions, and the ball never swings from this side to the other. It goes to this side or it goes to this side, and it stays, and somebody takes a shot. So patience and judgment is what we always trying to teach, patience and judgment. So
Does it help you convey that to your guys now that you can speak to that from experience? Like, hey, I lived this and I learned over time that I didn't know everything at 20 years old. And I mean, does that
I
help at
like to
all?
think so. I like to think that it does help. I've said to them sometimes, this is not, you guys are sitting there, but the coaches have sat in those same seats that you guys and been told the same things and because I've been questioning whether or not those things that I was told was correct. I'm sure they're doing the same thing. So sometimes you got to bring them in one-on-one, especially if you know somebody. You tell him and then he doesn't hear it and he goes right out. So you're really trying to convey to him, these are the things that I did also. So you're absolutely right. I think it helps.
We've done a couple of these with other DC area coaches here too. And one prevailing theme that I think I've heard is just that this generation of young men need to know the why a lot more. You can't just tell them to do something, but it's like, if you can explain it to them why this makes a difference, why they should do it, they just don't accept things as blindly. Has that been true to your experience too?
Yeah, but Matt, not only do they need to know the why, but the why has to make sense to them.
Yeah, sure.
So if you ask me why and I tell you, I can see in the look on their face that may not make sense to them. And so now I have to come back, because that's what my grandson is always saying. I said, he said, what's this? And I said, oh, that's a cartridge. Well, what's a cartridge? Well, you put it in there and you put it in the printer so the paper can have ink. It comes out on the paper. And he said, why? And so he always asks. And so I just think that the kids, you're right again, in that they want to know, because if they don't know, they go to their phone to get the information. Then they try to come in and tell you, this is what I saw, here about something, So it is, some of it is generational. You do have to figure out what their thinking is. And then when I came through, it was, just do it. But I do remember, having questions about it. So I think, go back to what you said before. Does that help? I think it does help, because I know sometimes they may be thinking the same thing. Coach doesn't know what he's talking about. And if you get guys that came from places where coach ran things, they say, well, coach, my coach, well, you're not here. You're not there anymore.
Exactly.
You're here.
This is how we do it. Yeah.
This is how we do it. And so you try to explain that. So by this time, we've been doing this about a month now, getting together. By this time, I think they understand that this is the way we do it here, So it's not wrong where you did it. It's just different. We do it different, So we try to convey that. Some of them get it quicker than the others. And, it's many ways to teach, Matt.
Sure.
I learned that from Coach Thompson, in that I can tell you something. I can write it on a board. I can show it to you on a video, or we can go down on the floor and we can walk through it. And some kids get it. But in the history of basketball, there's never been a coach that called a timeout and brought the group over, and he got the clipboard out and he drew some lines on the clipboard, and he turned up and looked up and said, you got it? There's in the history of basketball, has there been a player at that timeout said, no, coach, can you explain it to me again? Everybody shakes their head,
Sure,
got
coach.
it, coach.
Yep.
And they go out on the floor. And then when it doesn't go correctly, they say, oh, I thought you meant I was, So, hopefully if you're working, the coaching staff knows some of the people that may not get it by looking at that board, because some of it is confusing, because sometimes that's the problems with text message. What I meant to say in the text, the emphasis doesn't come through on the text message. And so somebody else reads it and say, oh, but you said, yeah, but that's not what I meant.
Right.
And
there's
so
room for interpretation there that can get kind of problematic, I'm sure.
Correct. So we try to filter out the kids that need maybe a little extra once they leave the huddle. And, you say, hey, remember now, you're supposed to go to the elbow and then fade. Oh, yeah, coach, I know. I got it. Right. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So we're on the same page. So it's fun. And that's why when it comes together in a game or half or whatever, and you come back and guys are smacking high, the other team has called timeout, the older I get, I get to appreciate those moments
Yeah,
of
sure.
happiness as opposed to waiting to the end result.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know those moments are special. You look somebody in the eye and you say, I told you, right? You know, and they say, yeah, coach, you got that, you know, you give some elbow bump or something. And so I want to enjoy those moments because you do have some special relationships with some of the guys. They go away and they call you back and say, coach, I remember when you said. And so a lot of my stories, which are John Thompson stories or Harold Dean stories, who was my high school coach, they become Mike Riley stories. You know, I may add a twist and twist there to make it my own. But they're Mike Riley stories now. And so some of the guys that come back and say, coach used to say, everybody can't do this. Because that's what I say in the morning. Everybody can't do this if we're here at 6 in the morning. You know, let's get going because everybody can't do this. And so, and it's kind of fun. And it's very much appreciative to have good people that's in the same thing, that trying to accomplish the same thing that you are.
I'd kind of never thought about that before, of just, you're not only a teacher, you're 5 different types of teacher, you know, like every kid is not going to learn the same way and get it at the same pace. So you've got to be able to speak, you know, different languages almost to different kids and have that connect. And that really does increase the difficulty or degree of difficulty there to get everybody on the same page for this one thing. So that's a great point.
Right. So,
I guess when you think about things you learned from Coach Thompson and how you apply them to your coaching, is it more of the on the court X's and O's stuff, or more of the off the court team building, team management, chemistry, relationship kind of stuff?
I think relationships, team chemistry is harder. The X's and O's, I mean, you can put them down and run them, but if you can get kids to believe in you, it's easier to do the X's and O's out on the floor. But the relationships, these kids nowadays have, you know, there was a time, Matt, before you were born, but there was a time where if you left work to go home, your job didn't know where you were. They couldn't reach you. You were gone. You came back the next day, and whatever problems they had right after you left, you were going to help them to resolve it the next day. Well, these kids are in a world where everything is going on. You know,
you never really clock out.
Yeah. You know, it's things in their family that's going on. They got friends going on, and you know, with this world that everybody seems like from age 11 or 12 on up could possibly have a gun or something. You know, it's just too much. It's too much. And these kids are held to a different standards relative. I'm talking about in their families, because they go to college. In some cases, their family think they need to know everything that's going on every day. And I try to tell them sometimes, that's why you send them away to go to college, to get away from whatever was going on and in the places where they were living. And so let them do that. You know, I mean, I'm not saying try to hide anything from, but to get on the phone and call them and text them during class, or, you know, they just getting phone calls all the time from people. And so you have to help them to navigate that, because it's an interesting world. We talked about, you know, I asked them a couple of days ago when it happened, did they know who Hamas was? Had they ever heard of Hamas? And, you know, one of them, I think, had heard something, but wasn't sure. And then we started talking about, you know, all these people, and we talk about innocent people. And I said, you know, you're lucky to be here in America. You know, you take it for granted. But we were attacked at 911. You know, we were attacked by, you know, somebody. You just don't know where that was going. And it was a scary time for us. But you just talk about the things and the difficulties in the world and just try to get them to understand that they got to work through it. And this is why they go to college and go to school, so they can have an opinion about something. And we won't be trying to get a Speaker of the House that we can't get in order to do, but you know, it just goes on and on. And so it's so many things that's going on in the world today. They have to slow down, and I try to bring them some things and some facts. And I give out, every now and then we give out a Gatorade to somebody that knows the right answer to a question about something. But all this comes from Coach Thompson, because there wasn't anything and you can ask Jahadi, that coach would, we'd be going hard up and down the floor or something, and coach would blow the whistle, and he'd go over and sit in the chair and say, y'all come over here and sit down. And then he asked, did anybody know that American Airlines lost, X amount of dollars this past quarter or something,
Yeah.
And they would say, what? And then he would go into this whole speech about they're comparing it to last quarter. So they didn't actually lose it for the year. They lost it in that quarter, whatever they may have lost, and make them think. And they would say, and it wasn't anything that we'd sit down for 30 minutes and then get up and warm up again and go back to practice. And so I try to bring a little bit of that in. We don't have the time that we had at Georgetown, but I try to do that at the end of practice by bringing up scenarios or talk about different things. So we're not just basketball. I want them to walk away and be talking to people and say, well, when I was in college, my coach, he talked about all kind of different things, so I do want them to take from that.
I was lucky enough to intern on Coach Thompson's radio show toward the end of his run over at ESPN 980. And the thing that struck me was I was only there with them a couple hours a week for, 6 months, whatever it was. But he remembered personal details about you and stuff too. And he would, hey, how'd that project you were talking about go last week? So he actually, this is obviously later in life, and he had sort of more of a grandfatherly vibe about him by then. I don't know exactly what he was like in his heyday, but it was impressive that he just remembered those kinds of things about pretty much everybody in the office. I thought that was great. But
he took, can I interrupt you?
Please.
He took great pride in being a listener.
Yeah.
Great pride in being a listener. And I try to emulate that because of the fact people talking to you, and it's very important to remember that you're a cat lover. It's very important to remember that you're a cat lover, so I won't bring my dog over to your house, so little things that he pick up on, and he'll come back and say, well, how was this, or how was that, or something like that. And you say, wow, coach, you remember that. He took great pride in being a listener. So I think he used to ride up to camp in Boston. I think it was Boston. With Red Auerbach is from here, and he used to ride up with Red Auerbach. And he said the whole time going up and the whole time coming back, he said all I was doing was listening.
It's a good person to listen and learn from too.
So you learn. So he said he just. So I thought, to be a good listener, what does that mean? And I said you have to actually hear where a person is trying to go with the conversation, and like you said, maybe regurgitate some of the things that you said earlier, and that would impress a person. That would say, wow, he heard that, he listened to that. So you're absolutely right. He was definitely good at that.
It's a great way to build those relationships and build some trust. And this guy cares about me if he remembered these kind of details. And I got to think that was probably big on the recruiting trail too, of hey, your mom's name, your dad's name, what they do for a living. Right. I know you, the person, not just you, the basketball player. I'm sure that went a long way. You hear all of the Coach K's and people like that, and you read all their books, and they talk about how, it's important for them to be a life coach and set these guys up for the business world. And I'm sure they mean that to an extent, but if you're Duke and you're graduating 5 guys that are going to be first round draft picks, that's one thing. For you at the D2 level, the chances of your guys playing meaningful professional basketball are pretty low, and the NBA probably, I would say, slim to none, right? So for you are actually setting these guys up for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's got to be a pretty cool part of the job, and to think about it in that context, I would think.
Well, the focus on, and we talk about, and we have 3 people, including myself, that's on staff. And one of the guys is his main body of work is academics.
That's great.
I mean, he helps guys get tutors. He helps guys with their organization. He helps them, going through majors, what they need to make sure they're ready to graduate. And we talk about that, and we try to help them with job opportunities afterwards. And you're absolutely right. I don't kill their dream about being a professional athlete, but we have to be realistic, and we have to understand what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. Coach Thompson, I got it from him, making sure, I have an academic coordinator just like he had an academic coordinator.
Yeah.
And that academic coordinator that he had, she was a piece of work, but I tell you, it worked. It worked. They got people
Yeah,
degrees,
they were as in sync as you could be, right? I mean,
right,
that was
right. And so you're absolutely right in that it is important that they get a degree. And it's interesting. We've got a couple of guys on the team that, and I don't know if you remember a guy named Ron Blaylock, but a boy named Ron Blaylock was on the team back when Patrick and them were on the team.
okay.
And Coach Thompson said that he was going to be very successful. Well, he owned his own company on Wall Street. And we got a couple of kids. I don't know if they're going to own their own company on Wall Street, but they're going to be successful, because they ask questions. You come in the morning, good morning, coach. How you doing? You looking all right all day. Everything all right. They just got personality that's going to fit with people that's trying to be successful. We got one of the kids running for office here on
awesome.
campus. So it's a good group. I hope we play as well as we've been playing in practice in the games or start out the scrimmages, because I want all the teams to be good. But this team's kind of special in the regard that they come together, they like each other, I like them. And I just want so badly for them to be successful that I've been working overtime to make sure they get it, what they're doing, because they're playing well. I don't want to blow them up too early because it's too early. We haven't done anything yet, but they're doing well. They're grinding. They're working hard, and I want them to continue to do that.
I got to imagine it's like a parent to some respect where like every parent loves all their kids, but some of them, you probably like a little bit more than others. And maybe with certain ones you just connect with differently. I'm sure that happens.
How
in
can
coaching,
you not
right?
do that and be human?
Right. Exactly.
We're human.
Yeah.
Obviously I've got 3 kids.
Sure.
I love them all, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you can be human. I would never tell them, but
exactly.
I just don't know how you can be human and not, maybe one of them played basketball and the others didn't, so
Sure.
I like the fact
you
that
have different relationships with everybody, and some connect better more than others. I'm sure that happens over the course of a long coaching career too, where there's certain ones you look back on and you're like, what, that team, that was a team, like that was a special group. So I hope for you that this one pans out the way you're thinking. I want to talk a little bit more about this year's team specifically. First thing that came across when looking at the roster was, one, you got a lot of guys from the area, which I think is really cool. If they're not DC, they're DC suburbs or DC adjacent or the greater DMV as a whole, which we love here on this podcast, but also a pretty good mix of younger and veteran guys. It seems like you got 4 freshmen coming in, but also probably just as many seniors. So I guess does that help you at all to have guys that know each other, know the area, they're probably familiar with each other? And
it helps tremendously to have kids from this area because of the fact that you got kids that can take some of the other guys not from the area. You can take them home during Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They know other people. You get people to come to the games, because the area kids is playing here. It helps with recruiting, but it also helps because of the fact that we've seen the kids maybe multiple times during the course of maybe a couple of years because they're local kids. Sure. So I just think that having local kids is easier. It's if you get a DC kid, it's cheaper. If you get a Metro kid, it's cheaper than getting out of town kids. We recruit the East Coast a lot. We get
it's not like there's a shortage of talent around here anyway, right? Like
right, it's not. And so we can't get it all, but we'll recruit guys. And sometimes you're looking for specifics. We lose a couple of big guys this year, so we'll be looking for big guys as we were looking for guards this year that we have now. And the freshman group that we got in, we think they're a pretty good group. But we say this every year. When it's on paper, it looks pretty good.
Sure.
Takes a little time to make it work. So but we think we have a good group. We got good group. We have size. We got quickness. We just gotta make sure we're rebounding, playing defense, and scoring the ball. So I think that takes care of the whole game. But I just think that, when you bring a group together, you are trying, because every time you change the lineup from day to day, you're just trying to see how one lineup looks the other. And guys get to looking around and saying, wonder why he did. And you can see them almost thinking, wonder why he did that, and I've had in years past, I haven't had this year, where kids will say, Coach, why'd you take me off that team? And I said, because I just want to see what you do on the other team. I'm just looking at, different
experimenting early in the year.
Experimenting, and I say that every year. I said, look, when we going through practice and it may be guys going here, guys going there, I'm switching teams. I said, don't try to figure out what I'm doing. You know why? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just putting the guy on that team to see what happens, putting the guy on there. And sometimes you're looking for quickness. Sometimes you're looking for defense, trying to see if a big team can play. If we play a big team, you put a smaller team and scramble, so you're just trying to see what lineups are. So I just think that, when you do that and when you have a mixture of young guys, we intentionally wanted to bring in 4 freshmen and intentionally wanted to bring in 2 either community or junior college guys. We did that intentionally because we didn't want to bring in 6 freshmen.
Yeah, I'm sure that's tough to make that work.
Because you're trying to find somebody.
You always hear "get old, stay old" in college basketball now. Coming in with 6 freshmen is probably a tougher recipe for success, I would think, in the short term.
It is. You're absolutely right.
You mentioned sort of the mix of this year's team being sort of like big man heavy or front court heavy. Last year you had Marable-Williams, one of the best guards probably in all of Division II basketball. Made a second team All-American. I guess when you lose a player like that, does that change the identity of the team and what you want to do? Or I guess how do you go about even replacing that? Because it's more than just the production. He was probably the tone setter for the whole team.
It's the leadership. And I told them that. Mm-hmm. And what I was trying to do was generate somebody to step up and say, Coach, I'll take upon the leadership. Sure. He was a guy that could come in and say, okay, guys, let's get this done. This is what you want. Okay, let's get this done. Mm-hmm. And if you're coaching, you need to have somebody that's in the ranks to do that. You don't need to be coming in and you barking here, barking there, and just barking. You need somebody in the ranks. Say, come on, let's get this done. And also identify that they're not spending the energy on this particular day. We have to pick the energy up, type of thing. And he did that. And I told the guys, the returning guys, I had them in a meeting, and I said, Jameer was a leading guard rebounder on this team. He was a leading assist guy on this team. I said, we're going to miss his points. I said, but where we're going to really miss him is his leadership. Sure. And I said, that's where I need help at. I need help at the leadership. Some of the guys have picked it up, but you don't teach leadership. Yeah. You can talk about it, but some guys like Jameer had it, he whatever he did or whatever to make up, he just had the leadership ability. And everybody I know they don't come to the table with that ability, but the guys we had this year have gotten better than what they were before. And so that helps. They're not going to beat Jameer. I know that, and Jameer wasn't Jameer, believe me.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. But he wasn't that person either when he first came here. A lot of conversations sitting down in my office and us going through, the things that he needs to do. He needs to stop fussing at people. You're not a coach. You need to stop trying to tell people what to do and share with them. This is what we need to do in order to get better. And you need to go out and get a sandwich with a couple of guys, They
probably all appreciate that, the younger guys, especially, I think.
Yeah. And that's how you, form a bond and you build relationships. And so he did all those things and he paid his dues. And I just talked to him last week. He said he was coming down here last week. But he's tracing that, and I'll say the NBA, well, I'll say professional. He's chasing that professional, and you got to do it while you're young. I know that, you and I are not going to be able to play professionally And while he's at the age, if he's got an opportunity to do it, he needs to try to do it. Yep. And so I told him to go chase it. And then, after he finishes that, let's sit down and talk about the future, about things. So, he's a great person, and I miss him immensely because of the fact that what he gave, and not talking about solely on the basketball court, the things he gave off the basketball court, because it wasn't him at first. And he developed that skill, if you want to call it, into something that was positive for the team. And we had a great year last year relative to playing up and down. Yeah. And then at the end, we won 5 straight in order to get into the tournament, in order to, so it was kind of interesting. Wound up being a successful year from that standpoint, because we were, I don't know what's the word, discombobulated. We were just all over the place.
Yeah, it came together late for you.
We came together late, and that if you're going to come together, that's the time to come together is late. So
one of the guys that seemed to kind of most come on at the end of the year and maybe helped from that perspective was Hartnell Hay. He had a great in your last postseason game, which unfortunately didn't work out. He was still really good individually, had 21 points, couple rebounds. Against St. Thomas Aquinas, who is like always really, really good at that level. I think that's a tough team to.
He was a guy that he made all tournament. I guess the all tournament team last year, and he was a guy that we're counting on this year to step up his leadership abilities. Doesn't have it, he's got to work on it. Not a natural communicator. Come in, rah guy. But he's going to work on the board, and he's going to give you, he's solid from what he's going to give you. We're probably going to get 11 to 12 points, 6 to 7 rebounds. He'll have better games, but that's what he's going to average out being. And he's going to be a good passer. We have him throw the ball in bounds all the time. Actually, we were pleased with what he did last year as far as across the board production, but not a demonstrative kid. Would prefer to see him give me a little bit of more, something. But he's got to be him, and so I don't expect that to change this year. But good kid, love him to death. He's going to be one of the people that's going to be in the mix playing when we play those teams like St. Thomas Aquinas, as you mentioned, that comes to play every game. He's going to have to play well enough for us to beat them.
Reminds me of the old Coach Thompson line about I'd rather calm down a fool than raise a corpse.
Always.
That's the one that sticks with me the most of anything.
Yeah, you cannot get kids fired up. You can calm them down,
right?
But it's very hard, no matter what you say or how much you yell or scream or you become. But it's just difficult. He's Coach Thompson. You're absolutely right, and he's absolutely right. You must prefer to have a kid that you gotta calm down, and we got a couple of kids that I don't need to calm them down, but they really are demonstrative. They just get out and which I love because you got to play this game with emotion.
Yeah.
And so.
Mentioned trying to replace Jameer's production on court a little bit here. It seems like one of the guys poised to do that is Eric Morgan. Had a seemingly pretty good freshman year, put up good numbers and production. 6'4" guard from DC, averaged about 8 points a game, like I said, as a freshman. Is that someone you see taking a big jump in year 2?
We need for him to take a jump.
Okay.
He played well. He started some games as a freshman. Really came out of nowhere. It came to an open gym. We had seen him play, but at Jackson Reed, Wilson High School, but we had seen him play, but wasn't sold on him until he came to that open gym, and we got to see him play like 5 or 6 games. And then we said, you know what, we need to take a chance, because he was a DC kid and it got to talk to him. He was intelligent, and had good grades. And so all that helps you to like a kid a little bit more. But he was a pleasant surprise. He came in and competed, And anytime I told him he needed to do something, I told him that you need to go home and work on your left hand. And he came back, and you can see what the kids don't realize. You don't have to go watch them work on the left hand. You can see the improvement in their bowling.
They're actually doing it or not. Yeah.
You can tell, and he actually has been working on his left hand, and so it's made him a better player. So we're expecting some good things from him this year.
Another guard, Tevin Curtis, 5'9", junior, pretty good last year. Good 3-point shooter, nice assist guy. Is that another person you'll look to kind of set things up and run the offense for you?
He's a guy that came from over there, St. Francis in Baltimore, and good, real good family. But he's got to step up a little bit also. He may be the best defensive player on the team, although we have a freshman that's pretty good. Okay. But even at 5'9", he's a very good rebounder. And that's what Jameer was at his 6 foot height. So, and we need guys like that. It's not afraid to go in there. And so he's, he's playing some point guard. He played some last year. He's playing some point guard this year. But what I don't want to lose from him is his ability to score and to shoot. Mm-hmm. Early on, and I told him this, early on, he put so much emphasis on running the team that there is a
not calling his own number at all. Yeah,
correct. He hadn't been taking shots, so he hadn't been looking for opportunities for himself. And I said, I need for you to look for opportunities for yourself. So I actually, the last couple practices, I put him on the wing because I need for him to get back to what he's doing, because the thing of setting the team up, that's good. But if I had to pick, I want him to be aggressive in scoring, because we're going to need both. I can find another person to set it up, set the table. I can't find another person to do what he does on the wing. So, I mean, I may be able to, but it's easier if he's scoring and being aggressive from the wing. He makes everybody else's job better. Yeah, take as many shots as you want to, Matt, but don't take not one bad shot.
There you go. Hey, if you can make 41% of your threes too, I think you could get a pretty green light on a lot of those things.
There you go.
Also have Micah Campbell and Nicholas Kenton, 2 other 6'7" older players. Nicholas is a junior and Micah a senior. Does that help having a veteran front court like that? Big physically developed guys already. You're not having to rely too much on the freshmen to bang on the boards and stuff.
Well, at this level, the hardest thing to find is a big body that's serviceable.
Yeah.
And so if you can find a couple of guys that's serviceable, then you're ahead of the game. And if they have some experience, like you said, which they do have, then you're a little bit further ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. So they're talking to some of the younger guys, and I'm watching them talk to some of the younger guys, and I'm just smiling, because they're saying, we need to do this, we need to do that. And both of them are going to have an impact on us having a good season or not. We have actually put in a little bit of a wrinkle in our offense, and within that, both of those guys are being more not productive scoring, but more productive in handling the ball and being a part of the offense. Mm-hmm. And I think they like that. I think big guys always like to be able to touch the ball a little bit more.
Got to reward the big guy, right?
Yeah, always reward the big guy, because he's down there pounding, getting rebounds for you. So hopefully that'll be successful.
You mentioned one of the freshmen being very good defensively. We have 4 freshmen on this roster. Any one of them you expect to be able to contribute day one, and who's the one that's sort of?
Well, Nazir Coleman is the one that's very good defensively. The freshman, he's just aggressive, very aggressive, coming at you, stay in your face. Makai Arnold is a shooter. He was all met in this area, and so I think he'll be helpful. He's been playing a lot. We've had Charles Hawley or CJ shoot the lights out. He's been a little injured, had a little injury, so he hasn't been playing a whole lot scrimmage, but he's coming around. And then who else we got? Makai. Raywan. Raywan is a kid that Raywan Gray. Raywan Gray. He went to Tacoma Academy, and he can shoot the lights up. So
that helps.
He's 6'7". So I think we got a good crop. Again, it comes down to, we're talking on October the 14th. Everybody's pretty good on October the 14th.
Yep.
I'll talk to you on November the 14th, and I'll tell you, I'll have a better answer for you. But I think that the makings of a good team is there. Whether it comes early, in the middle, or late, I don't know. But I think we have the makings of a pretty good team. They're working hard. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head at this point in time right now. I don't remember having a team work as hard as this team is working.
You gotta love that as a coach.
I do. So I've had to back them down a little bit. As I said, we ended early today, and got them out of here. Talked to them, but got them out of here and told them to go rest because they needed the rest because they were grinding this week. They really were. So
gotta save them from themselves a little bit sometimes, I'm sure.
You do because they, guys want to play ball all the time, and so tell them to go study.
Before I get you out of here, for anyone who hasn't been to a UDC game, which I personally have not, which I plan on remediating this season, what should we expect? What's the calling card of the team? What kind of team are we going to see, and what's the experience like?
Well, this year we're going to press. We're going to get out and run, which we always have. We averaged 80 some points last year. We're expecting to average as many this year. And we're going to try to put as many keep fresh bodies in the game. Based on the game, we play Bowie State on November the 18th, which is a Saturday here. That's going to be a lively game. They bring their fans over, and it's a rivalry game a little bit.
Sure.
So that should be a good game to attend. So the atmosphere should be fun, and hope to see you at a game, man.
Yeah, would definitely love that. I think just being able to
bring Jihadi with you.
I will see what I can do. If we can get him back in town, I'll definitely see if I can get him out. Coach, thank you so much for doing this. I think one thing I like to end on too is just taking away for basketball here a little bit. Can you give us one fun fact about Mike Riley that people may not know, whether it's a guilty pleasure TV show, or what do you get into when you're not coaching basketball?
I like to watch 60 Minutes. That's just on Sundays, but yeah. I love to watch 60 Minutes, and I do watch CNN. That helps me to talk to the kids about things that's going on that's other than basketball, and we have a Q&A sections sometimes, whereas I put things on a note card I want to bring to their attention about things that's going on. I give out Gatorade. I'll ask them, who was the first Black person to win an Oscar, and they'll be thinking, and one of the kids this year say, "Oh, I know who it is, Coach. I know who it is," and he wound up getting part of the answer right, but part of the history of that is Hattie McDaniels is the person that I'm talking about. She won an Oscar. She was Black, and the year that they had the Oscar at the hotel, Black people couldn't come into the hotel. So that's a little trivia side story of that story, that she had to receive her Oscar somewhere other than in the hotel there is. And so I try to bring him those type of
that's
facts,
great for them.
if I can.
I love that. I think the kids probably benefit from that. It's exactly what you're saying. You get guys come back 10 years later. They're like, hey, coach, glad you brought this kind of stuff into my life and my attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at and I don't know if you've heard the movie Hidden Figures.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard of that story before.
Yeah, same.
It's an unbelievable story, and
I work on commercial space launches and with NASA as a full-time job, and I had never heard that story before. So, I mean, that's
there you go. They always say that, Roosevelt rode over San Juan Hill with a regiment of soldiers. And in that regiment, there were 2 small battalions of black soldiers that rode over the hill with him. And they say that they didn't get lost riding over the hill. Yeah. They got lost in the history books.
Yeah. Yeah. When people paint that picture later, that's
right.
They're leaving that out by choice.
Yeah. So
very cool.
Anyway,
well, I appreciate what you're doing. I think this is, like I said, you impact lives more directly than some of these other coaches at other levels, because these guys are with you for multiple years, and this is the jumping off point for them for the whole rest of their lives outside of basketball. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Good luck to you, and again, say hi to Jihadi when you see him.
We'll do. Good luck this season. We look forward to following along the way. If you ever have any players you want to have on or anything, we'd love to have them here too, just to talk about their perspective and kick some butt out there.
Appreciate you.
All right, everybody, you know the drill. Rate, review, subscribe. Make sure you're checking out UDC basketball throughout the year. We'll keep you posted with some updates. And as always, we were presented by betonline.ag, and we will catch y'all next time.